What's up, guys? Today I'm back in the shop working on our Cummins swap square body, and as you guys may know, I test fitted these 2015 Tahoe seats in this thing for the very first time last week, but obviously they're not gonna bolt in place because they were never meant to live in this truck. So I've got my work cut out for me because over the next couple of days I've got to build the brackets for these seats to get them to bolt in the truck and make them look like they were meant to live there. But I also have all new lighting to go from the front to the rear of this thing, so headlights, cab lights, marker lights, and new tail lights for the first time since we started working on it. So we've got a lot of work to do getting these seats and these lights working and in place. So I don't need to waste any time. I'm gonna crank this joker up, get it out of the shop so I've got some room to work, take some measurements, and hopefully here very soon, we've got some seats bolted in the cab. All right, guys, so we're going to start with our front seats. So I'm going to show you what these factory mounts look like. So they've got the little guide stud that goes right there. Then they've got where the bolt hole would go through to bolt into the floor. And on the front of these things, they've got a little hook that would slide under a little bracket that was in the Tahoe. Obviously, we don't have any of that in a square body. So I'll tell you a little bit about my game plan. I think the first thing that I'm going to do is pull these seats out, and I'm going to cut all of this off so that the only thing it leaves is our slider, because we do pretty much want that on the floor as much as we can get it. So I think I'm going to cut all that stuff off and leave myself only the slider. And then I think what I'll do is I'll build myself a nice little bracket that bolts there and then bolts on the front side here and utilizes the factory bench seat mount. It might be a little bit easier if this thing came with bucket seats originally, but it was a bench seat truck. No big deal. We're going to utilize the factory bolt holes because we do still want that structural integrity of the mounting point. So we're going to pull these seats out, get the bottoms cut off of them, and then we're going to come up with a game plan after that. I have no plan past here. Hopefully we can figure it out. All right, guys, so after I pulled the seats out and I've kind of looked at everything here, this is what I'm going to cut off, and this is what I'm going to cut off. So my game plan, after looking at that and looking at the mounting points in here, so there's the front mounting point, there's one of the rears, and this one over here was a seat belt mount. But on these seats that I've got out of the Tahoe, on the inside, I can actually utilize the seat itself to bolt the seatbelt receiver. So I don't have to have that anymore. So I'm going to use that as one of my seat mounts. So I have 3 of the factory seat mounts. I'll just drill one up here and put a nut and bolt in it for now. And I'll probably put a rib nut or something in it later. But my game plan is I've got some 1-inch square tubing right here. And what I'm thinking about is I'll build these brackets so that they go across this way instead of front to back. So they'll go side to side. And then that way I can build those to where I can get them mounted inside the truck. And then I can sit the seat in there on top of them like that. And then just weld my slider itself to the tubing. So that's the quickest and easiest way I can come up with to build these brackets to get these seats bolted in. Honestly, I think it'll look pretty clean. It's going to be simple and mostly hidden under those factory brackets, and it'll also lift the seat only an inch. So it'll still sit pretty low. That way it's underneath the steering wheel where our head's not in the ceiling and all that stuff, and we'll still have plenty of adjustment front to back. So I'm going to build the brackets, get those bolted in here, and then we'll sit the seat back in here so that we can slide it back and forth, side to side, figure out exactly where we want it, get it tacked in place, and things should be looking pretty good. Alrighty, guys, so here is what I have come up with so far. So here's my little brackets that I built. There's the ones that I built for the middle part. So that was a happy little mistake. I ended up making this little tab right here a little bit longer than it needed to be, so it was going to push this forward, and it just so happened I was able to fit it to wrap the inside of that. So that actually works out pretty well. But what I decided to do so that I had the seats the same front and back, because there's not really anything in here to pull measurements off of, I just built my tabs and I took my entire stick of 1-inch tubing and ran it all the way across, because my tabs were built the same, so it's going to make it run straight. So what I'm going to do now is go ahead. I know I said I was going to cut the tabs off of these seats, but I'm going to do that now. So that way I can go ahead and get the seat set back in here and figure out how I want it to sit angle-wise front to back so that I can kind of sit it in there and go ahead and get the measurements for my front brackets as well. And then what I'll do is figure out where these need to sit from side to side so that I can center the seats. And then I'll cut these, weld them to the tabs, and then we'll get some paint on them so we can go ahead and get them in here, bolted in. And then that way everything works like it needs to. The seats will be ready to bolt in, and then we get to move on to that monstrosity back there. I still don't know exactly what I'm going to do, but with doing this, I'm kind of getting some ideas. So I'm going to go ahead and take these seats inside, get the tabs cut off, and then we'll start setting them in there one at a time. Actually, we might just go ahead and throw them both in there because I need to build the brackets from side to side. I think I'm going to do the front one the same way I did the back one and run it the length of it so that it sits flat from side to side and it's the same forward and backwards. So that's what I think that is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and do that front one, but I am going to put both seats in there, get them set how I want them to sit, and then we'll take a measurement, and then we'll start building some brackets and get these jokers welded together.
He's starting to look like me sitting in a truck.
Yeah, right? Dude, so the back brackets for these seats are finished. So I'm going to be honest with you. We had a couple of comments that were worried about leg space in the back. That back seat still has some room to move back, but there is no chance we will ever be sitting back this far.
Yeah, because that still has to move back, and, well, you also have to move about, it's a little windy. You also have to move up like a good solid 6 inches for you to be able to reach pedals anyway.
So I think with this back seat, I think we'll be okay with leg room, but I'm pretty content with this. Like, sitting in this truck in an actual seat is pretty sweet.
It's better sitting on the floor.
It is better than sitting on the floor. I can actually mash the brakes now. So, but anyway, we went ahead and slid it all the way back so that we've got some room to work with our front brackets, because with the seat slid all the way forward like it was, there was no room to work. So we got to figure out how exactly we're going to do this, but I think what we'll do, I am going to utilize the front seat mount like we did on the back, so we'll build the bracket off of that, but we'll run a piece of that square tube in between these two if we can somehow make it work. I hope we can. But we'll do that, basically build mirror images of it so that we can get everything nice and flat all the way across there. So we'll build these two middle brackets first, and then we'll work on the center bracket. But that one doesn't have a mount, so I'm gonna have to drill a hole, put a bolt and a nut, and then build my bracket for that as well. So no big deal, but we'll build these two first, run our piece of tubing all the way across so that everything's level across there, and then we'll take some measurements for the measurements.
Hey, there's front brackets on that.
There's front brackets, and they'd be a lot more sturdy if that had a nut on the back side of it.
Not only that, we also ran into a lot of problems with, well, obviously, at the very end.
This one in particular. It's always like that. I told you earlier things were going too smooth and something was going to go wrong.
Yeah, not only that, it was close to the end, too, so it's always towards the end.
It's always, it was the very last, like, weld.
Yeah.
It was the very last weld. But we got it done. Everything looks pretty good. It's square. It's sturdy. I mean, these seats ain't going nowhere, bro.
I mean, they ain't going to go nowhere when we bolt all that down.
Once we get that done, yeah. So they're pretty much tacked. I know we got the backs welded out fully to the sliders. The front, I just put a good tack on. I welded out the insides fully, but I'm going to take them back out, weld the whole thing again. But they've got to come out to be, for the brackets to be painted anyway. There's no point in us taking them out tonight, welding them to put them back in, because we got to move the truck back inside and all that. We'll just wait until we take the seats out to paint the brackets and then weld it, and then we'll paint it all in one time.
Yeah.
So, anyways, that being said, I'm out of time for tonight, and I'm not going to be able to do the back seat without you here. But unfortunately, I got to go back to work tomorrow, and you got to work Thursday. So we're not going to see each other until like Saturday.
Yeah.
So that being said, I'll be working on this thing Thursday, and I'm going to be putting the lighting in this thing. And you said you wanted to see some of the lights on it whenever it lit up for the first time.
We can do it now. We can do it later.
Well,
or you could do it, and then I can be surprised when it's in, or we can put one in just see how it is.
I'll let you make the call right now.
You make the call.
Okay, fine. I want to put the headlight switch in and see if it's going to work. We'll plug in one of the headlights and just see if it'll light up. We won't go any further than that for tonight.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's put a light switch in.
Headlight switch. Switch
Turned off.
turned off.
Yep. Oh, say it again.
Alrighty guys, so the other night we were able to determine that our headlight switch is gonna work. The headlights are gonna work. The only thing we had an issue with is the dimmer switch actually on the steering column. I guess there's a short in there somewhere, but that's no big deal. We do have a good steering column that's got all good components that we're gonna be putting in this thing. But just take a look at this pile of parts we got right here. We've got new tail lights, we've got new headlights, we've got marker lights for the fenders, all of that stuff. So all new LED, everything from front to back. Did get the notification just a little bit ago that our cab lights are out for delivery, so those will be here shortly. So we got plenty of work that we can do and stuff that we can install to kind of kill time until those get here. Those are the things that I'm the most excited about, so we'll probably wait and save those for last anyway. So that being said, new headlight buckets, new headlight bezels, all of that. So we're going to get all of that installed, work our way toward the back, and then we'll just kind of see how things are looking as we go. This is a big step. This is something that we've been working toward for a long time and something that this thing needed, and it hasn't had since we've had it, even from the day we got it. So super excited about this. Let's get some headlights installed. Alrighty guys, as you can see, we have everything wired up and it looks like everything is doing just as it should. So we've got high beams on right now. I hadn't checked the low beams because like I said, I am having problems with the switch that is actually in the column. But I do have another issue that I didn't notice right off the rip. But if you can look at the size of these versus the size of these are not going to work. So if you guys remember, this is an 85 truck, which meant that it had the bigger headlight up top and the blinker housing on the bottom. But we're putting the 86 front end, which is basically the 4i, and it takes 4x6 headlights versus the 5x7. Well, in the description of the item that I purchased, it said that it fit the 86 Chevy. Basically, it actually said that it fit like the 73 to late 90s. So I didn't realize that there was a difference in the headlight size. I've got 4x6 headlights. Those are 5x7 buckets. But I do have a parts truck at the bottom of the hill that has the 4x6 headlights in it. So what I might do is, for the time being, go ahead and rob those headlight buckets off of that. And we may clean those up and use those on the truck, because I'm not able at this time to find 4x6 buckets. And I've only looked for a few minutes, but I didn't see any. So I'm going to keep looking, but I think that is what we're going to have to do, is for now go ahead and go down to the parts truck, get those headlight buckets, and throw those on here so we can actually mount the headlights up, because I do want to see these things mounted on the truck. So probably what we're going to do, I've also got to get a pigtail for one of the front fender marker lights, and those are on that truck as well. So might go ahead and cut one of those off too, as well as the ones for the dually fenders, because I don't have those on this truck because it wasn't a dually to begin with. So I'm going to go cut a few things off of that, take those headlight buckets, come up here. We're going to get these headlights mounted in the truck, see how they look. We're not going to waste the time with adjustment if we're just going to take them right back out. So that sucks. Not something I was really anticipating, but it is what it is. I didn't think about it ahead of time and honestly didn't know. But we'll go get those. We'll get the headlights in still, and it'll look like it's supposed to look, so we can have an idea of what the finished product's going to be. But it's unfortunate, but we got to take care of it. Alrighty guys, so we finally got the headlights installed. I'm going to go ahead and apologize to y'all in advance. If you pass us on the road, this is ridiculous. This really has no business being this bright. But I did do things a little bit different. I think on these trucks from the factory, when the high beam was on, it was only the top bulb. And when the low beam was on, it was the top and the bottom, but it was dimmer. So I think that's how that worked. But I've got it wired to where all 4 lights are on all the time. So the high beam, I don't know if you can tell right here, but on the high beam, you've got all 3 rows of LEDs that light up. And on the low beam, it's only the middle row. So it's like that across the board. So it may not be as ridiculous as I think it's going to be. But I can go ahead and tell you right now, when I turn the lights on out here in the dark, it's pretty bright. So I think this thing's going to look really good when everything is lit up. I'm running out of time, so I'm hoping I can get most of this stuff installed, maybe at least the fender lights and the cab lights, because I want to see those cab lights so bad. But I got the headlights wired. Those are working pretty good. I've just got the ground thing to kind of figure out a little bit. I've got to find where I want to put it in there, and it's getting dark, and I'm outside. So not going to be able to get that figured out probably tonight, but the lights do work. They work on the switch. The dimmer is working sort of, but when we get that other steering column in there, it'll take care of that. But next thing I want to put in is those fender lights, because I'm ready to see the whole front side of this thing wired up. I've got to hook up one of the plugs on the driver's side, and then I'll have those front fender lights that I can install, because I do have those sitting here. So I'm going to do that next, and then we may just go ahead and move on to the cab lights. I was going to save it for last, but I do still have a lot of wiring to do on the back end, because I didn't think about it, and I actually have to tie in the dually fender lights, because again, this wasn't a dually bed and I don't have the stock wiring for it. So I've got to run the wires. I do have some plugs that I cut off that will work, that I'm going to use back there, but it's just going to take a lot of time wiring all that and figuring it out. So that's what I'm going to do next. I'm going to go ahead and do these fender lights, and then once I get the front fender lights on, I'll figure out what I'm going to do after that. But let's get these jokers plugged in and see how she's looking. Alrighty guys, so there they are installed on the truck, and they look absolutely phenomenal. I wish I had the dually fenders hooked up as well, but we got these front ones. One thing I didn't realize on these is that these actually serve as a blinker as well in the factory housing, but on these, it's only one strip, and it's just a positive and a negative. So I had to cut the wiring harness and make it where it would work with the parking lot and wouldn't try to stay on all the time. But then again, it wouldn't work anyway because it didn't have a ground, because there's a 12-volt positive for the blinker and a 12-volt positive for the marker light, and both of them go to that one little plug and work on the other housing. So what I did was I cut it, and it works with just the parking lot now, but I think I'm going to buy another set of these and try to build a set of switchbacks so I can have the white marker, but then I can have the amber blinker. So that being said, this Joker looks pretty insane for both sides, and I think now I'm going to pull it back in the shop because it's getting really cold. Go eat some dinner, and then I think I'll come back out and try to get those cab lights hooked up, because again, that's the part that I'm the most excited about. It's not going to be too terrible either. I have looked at them, and they look pretty simple, essentially plug and play. So gonna go eat a little dinner, get out here, we'll get those Jokers hooked up and see how she looks all wired up and all lit up from the front. Well, guys, we're in just a little bit of a different setting. As I was finishing up filming the video and finishing up working on the truck last night, got a phone call from my wife, and she told me she thought she was going into preterm labor. So I had to drop everything, jump at the truck, and hightail it down here to the hospital. Within about 10 minutes of us getting here, she actually had the baby. So she was definitely in labor. So I won't lie to you. I was a little terrified, a little freaked out, a little anxious, all of the above. But baby is good. Baby's healthy. The doctors seem extremely optimistic. They say she's an absolute rock star. So no red flags as of right now. Baby's healthy. Baby's good. And mom is also healthy and good. She's happy. So we're both a little mind blown that we had a baby. It was not supposed to happen just yet. Little caught off guard, but also super excited. I want to apologize to you guys for having to cut the video just a little bit short. I know we had big plans and a lot of things we wanted to get done, but all things considered, we did get a lot done. We got our seats installed, which took a lot of work, very difficult, but we got it done. It worked out. We also got the headlights, the cab lights, and the fender lights installed, and they look absolutely phenomenal. We've got some wiring still to clean up and some things to address with that, but that's not a big deal at all. It's something we'll take care of very quickly and very easily. I hate I had to cut the video short, but sometimes you just have to put your priorities where your priorities belong, and family belongs at the top of that list. So had to take care of family, but all is good with that. So I'm thankful. God definitely had a hand in it. Like I said, I was a little anxious, a little terrified, but God had a hand in it. And so everybody's good. I want to thank you guys so much for watching the videos and for all your support. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you check out that one right there, because YouTube thinks it's going to be the best one for you to watch next. And also hit that subscribe button, because I don't want you to miss anything. We've got a lot of content coming out very soon. Some very good stuff we're going to be putting out. So I appreciate you guys. You guys are the best. And we hope to see you on the next one. Deuces.